Hey everyone, William Ross here, Ferrari Marketplace, Garage 65 and Motoring Podcast Network, vlog and podcast. And today we welcome our good friend Chris Miele from Prancing Horse of Nashville or Ferrari of Nashville, however you choose to recognize it. But we like the Prancing Horse of Nashville name ourselves. Chris, we're going to get into with him his story and the story of Prancing Horse of Nashville because it's an incredible story. And he has been with Ferrari for many years, but it's a great story and how he became involved, his passion for cars, and it's just a great story. So, Chris, welcome. We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So let's just jump right in. You got into cars in general at a very young age.
Yeah, I mean, I started as a kid growing up. I grew up in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. I had a friend of mine that I went all the way from preschool all the way up through grammar school growing up with. His father was a distributor for Benjamin Moore Paint, and they had Ferraris at home, and it kind of started going to the Ferrari Club of America Nationals, late 70s, early 80s, and all the way through until I graduated high school, and then obviously started after that when I came home from military service.
That's a common denominator for people that get into cars is the neighbor of the family, whatever, had a Ferrari or had a Corvette, had something along the lines that built that passion up, or obviously their parents did. But a lot of times you hear that story, like, oh, he's the neighbor, the guy down the street. Oh, he gave me a ride in his car. And it's great when that passion gets spread about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's different, obviously. I see it, obviously, when it's a legacy deal with a father-son, because it's really, it's going all the time, a lot of times inside the house. It's being discussed all the time. Mine was, we played baseball, Little League baseball, whatever it was at the time. And then the car thing was like the offshoot. So when other kids were doing baseball camp or going down to the New Jersey Shore summer house or whatever they were doing, we were doing the Ferrari National or doing the go-kart thing, racing the karts, dirt bikes, you name it. If it was out there with gasoline, we were
exactly. If it's got motor and wheels, we're on it. Yeah, it's the same way. Now we're going to jump into, I guess it'd be your teen years, because many people might not realize this. You were a Marine.
Yeah. Well, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes,
right?
true. Good point. Yep. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. So I joined the Marines. I was 17. My dad fought in World War II. He was in the Pacific, and he was born in 1926. So he got into the war right at the end, 1945. So, growing up in a house where, you see all the photos of your dad and, serving military service. So it was one of those things that, I felt strongly about, and I wanted to serve the Republic. So I joined the Marines, and I met with them in mid 80s, 84, 85 I was in. And by the time 89 came around, I was out.
And you were stationed in?
Hawaii. Yeah. So went to Paris Island for boot camp. And then I went to Camp Lejeune for, at the time it was called Infantry Training School. And then from there, I went to Hawaii, and I served in the 3rd Marines. And I was lucky enough to be a pretty good shooter. So I tried out for what they called State Platoon at the time. It was STA, was Surveillance and Target Acquisition Platoon, Scout Sniper. And I guess the rest is history, right?
Yeah, so, you got to follow his Instagram account. And if his name is One Shot
8541.
8541. Yeah. So that's whole. I never knew what the one shot meant. Now I understand why, and it's perfect to have it on there. So understand it now. But when you were in Hawaii, we had talked about this before, and you had brought up in regards to obviously downtime at camp, boot camp, on station, whatever. The guys around you were indulging in, I would say, other types of magazines and books.
Oh yeah, whatever.
And you were cars.
Yeah, other guys, they're reading Soldier of Fortune or Muscle of Fitness or whatever other magazine they were reading. And I'd always go to the PX and always grab all the car magazines. So whatever it was, Car and Driver, Road and Track, whatever it may have been. But at that time, the F40 was coming out, and there was all these other cars, which I was familiar with the brand, and I was always reading those Italian sports car magazines. And then, you're either playing cards or poker games or playing spades or whatever games you're playing. You know the deal. We would always, play for some sort of pot of money. A bunch of my buddies and I were always talking about cars. So we'd focus in and say, hey, what's the 0 to 60 on this car? Or what's the quarter mile on that? And it was just, a way to get your mind involved with something other than what you were doing.
Yeah, so very prolific time in the car industry around then, mid 80s, late 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, some incredible pieces of machinery
Oh,
coming
yeah.
out of there. Very highly collectible now, as
Oh,
we're
yeah.
seeing what's going on out there with a lot of these cars that were produced back then.
For sure.
I mean, it's incredible. But how do you, all right, so you're in Hawaii, you're in the Marines now, you get out of the Marine Corps, but you made it back to Hawaii, I guess you say, because you left Hawaii for a period and then you went back. So fill us in on that, because you got your start obviously selling Mercedes, correct?
Yeah, I started off in Mercedes-Benz, and I obviously would go back and forth. My friends were still in the Marines; they were still stationed in Hawaii, so I would go back and forth. And if you've been to Hawaii, what's not to love, right? So we were at one of the dealer meetings, and we were chatting with the guys. They were actually from the dealership in Hawaii, and we started chatting. And long story short, at the end of the night, he handed me his business card. And you know how it is. You shake somebody's hand, you have their business card. I took a couple steps away and I looked at the business card. And I said, hang on. They had a Ferrari logo. So they were a Mercedes Ferrari dealership, and they had a couple other brands as well. So he said, hey, look, if you ever come on out here, let me know. And I said, hey, I'm going back to go visit some friends. I'm coming back out to Hawaii. And you know how that goes. The rest is history, right? I went out there. He made me an offer. And we started with Mercedes, but they had Ferrari, they had Jaguar, Audi, they had a bunch of different brands. And that was my first involvement in the Ferrari brand. And it's, been many, many, many years, coming up on close to 30 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
But it's a great 30 years.
Yeah, it is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So going in that, so obviously Hawaii, and you were at that store and operated that store for about, what you say, 10, 12 years?
No, I was there with the one in because then I came back to New Jersey.
Yeah, you came back to Jersey.
Okay. Came back to Jersey. I was there for a couple years, and then post 9/11, I found out that they were going to go ahead and they were going to put a dealership in New Jersey. So, I was at the right place at the right time, and some friends' connections connected me with the right people, and met them in 2003, and we started construction on the dealership, and we opened in 2004, and I was there for almost 8 years, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 2003 from the start, left at the end of 10, summer of 10, late 10, and I had another opportunity that opened up, so I went for that. But yeah, it was a great opportunity to be with the brand, and it was a great time with the brand too, because from 355, 360, 430 into 458, I was there for that run. And candidly, people always ask me, they said, what was the greatest car that you saw launched? Most people would think it's the 458, but truthfully, it was really the 360. The 360 was such a game changer over the 355.
Yeah.
And it really redefined everything. I mean, that was a car, there was a waiting list always with Ferrari because production back then was much, much lower. But it really changed everything. And still to this day, it's a car that you look at. They're all beautiful, but you can really see how the 360 obviously went into the 430. And then the 458 was a big step up, a new car. 488 was an evolution of 458. And then, the F8 was a small evolution off of the F8, off the 488. But I always talk about the 360. It really, and especially the Challenge Stradale.
Oh, God, yeah. I had such a fabulous car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a big jump with the design, language, and style from the 355 to the 360. I mean, the construction process. I mean, it completely changed in regards to styling, looks, performance. It was a big jump in performance.
Big time.
Especially then 360 430 was another big jump. And just with everything about it, and just the Challenge Stradale. And today, I think they're finally getting their proper due.
Yes.
In regards to value.
I agree.
There are some incredible ones out there. The Bachmann Collection one that just sold back in January, Kissimmee, that unbelievable green. That's how many were done in that green? I know it's only a couple.
One or two.
One or two. That's it. I mean, that was an incredible, incredible car. And just now you see them. So I think they're finally getting their due.
Yeah.
And 430 Scuderias are getting their due as well. And finding it. So it's a very interesting times in regards to those cars, I guess, getting their proper due. people recognize the fact as well, hey, those are normally aspirated, especially the manual cars too.
Yeah.
I mean, are incredible.
Yeah. Back then on a 360, the production, I remember pretty clearly, about 6% of the cars were manual gearboxes. And that went all the way down to like 3% on the 430. It was much, much, much less. And early on the 360, especially, at the very early times, 99, 2000, 01 on the coupes, 01 was the first year of the Spider, you would see more manuals back then. But even when you look at the cars today and they come to market, it's rare that they're the later years. I mean, it's so rare to find a 2005 360 Modena. That's a really tough car to find. And to me, that's the rarest of the rare. And I remember them both on the assembly line at the same time, seeing 360s roll off, then a 430, and then another 360 because they were getting mixed up.
So here's a big question. I guess, for someone that's watching this, that's, 10 years old, 15 years old, and just, I want to be that. I want to get into selling Ferraris. But I mean, it's one thing just, hey, I'm going to the store and work. I mean, you got to work your way up, but how do you grow that business? I mean, obviously your knowledge is, I almost would say second to none. Marcel Marcini is incredible, but I mean, your knowledge you have is unbelievable on history of cars. I mean, it's incredible. But so how do you like work your way? Because, back then, like now at this day and age, it's obviously worldwide because the internet, it's got the World Wide Web. But back then, it's such, I say small because obviously everything's done phone, fax, or, obviously just looking through classifieds. So how'd you grow that business to, I guess, establish it and become so ingratiated into the Ferrari world in, I guess, say such an analog time?
Yeah, it was for sure. I mean, for me, I was very fortunate. Like I said, I was exposed to the Ferrari Club Nationals since the late 70s. So going to the Nationals and seeing a 250 GTO, 250 short wheelbase, whatever it may have been, 250 LM, it was common. You would see the cars. Now you don't see them quite nearly as much. Most people obviously have them in collections or museums or what have you. So I was exposed to the cars at an early time. And I think that had a big impact. Now, to your point, it's not like today you'd have the phone in your hand and you can just look up a car instantly. It was encyclopedias or, finding a car magazine or whatever it may have been. A lot of times going to bookstores back at the time, I would buy everything I could. But that was my deal. I just wanted to learn and totally immerse myself into the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, a lot of it came from me. Obviously, I think a lot of it had to do with my job in the military. That had a real lot to do with it. Everything was about perfection. You had to be the best of the best. And, when you're studying all that stuff all the time, it's just kind of ingrained in you that you have to be on top of your game.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do something, do it and try to be the best. If you're committed to it, if you say, look, this is what I want to do, be the best you can be. So that was always my attitude, and it still is to this day.
What would you give someone, I guess you'd say career path wise? Because you started with Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
So would you recommend, hey, start with the highline manufacturer of some sort, Mercedes, BMW, something along those lines, and work your way up, just build your sales knowledge, build your database of potential customers? I mean, would that be something you'd recommend for someone to do?
Well, look, the truth is, I knew the cars and I knew them better than the guys that worked at the dealership. Honestly, I really did. Because I was exposed to the brand since I was 10 years old. So by the time I got out of the Marines, I was 21, 22 years old. I knew everything about the cars. The tough part was I didn't know the car business. So you have to learn the car business, and you want to learn it on a high-end scale. I was super, super lucky. I started at Mercedes-Benz in the retail space. And that's not really easy to do either, but it does happen. Back then, it was much more difficult because the model lineup was much less. Mercedes didn't have an SUV at the time. It was the 190, the 300, and then you went into the 560s at the time, or even before that, the 380s at the time. So it wasn't like the model lineup was really big like it is today. And that being said, there's so much more for somebody to learn on a model lineup at like a regular store. But, it's the same thing at Ferrari. You may not see that many different models. They'll say, hey, listen, I know all these different models and how many variants, but it gets into options on a Ferrari. You can look at two cars, they can look almost identical. But if you're a real pro, you can look it over instantly and you can see in your head, hey, this car's probably got $50,000, $75,000 more of options. It's a little bit like the video you made last night. You were going around looking at the TDF that's here, and you immediately knew the color of the paint, the carbon fiber, the car was signed by Flavio Manzoni, the dream lines, the little things on the car. And obviously that's what makes that particular car different than your normal F12 TDF.
Yeah, that's very popular at that post.
Yeah.
People absolutely love that car.
Yeah,
They're
it's
like,
a great car.
Yeah, that thing is beautiful. Well, here's a question I have in regards to options. Because back then, it was going like, say, 355, 360, 430 range back in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
It probably wasn't as, I guess, not say prolific, but what type of tailor-made program did they have then compared to now?
Nothing. They had something that you can put in like an extra Campanerio request, a special order request. And it would be like use a car like a 550 Maranello. Every once in a while, you'll see a car on a 550 Maranello. The rear shelf behind the driver and passenger seat is leather and it has diamond stitching. So that was referred to as 250 GT style stitching, like you would see on a 250 car, a Lusso, for instance. That's the stitching that was an option. But a lot of people didn't know you had to fill out a separate request. And it was a basic, like an Excel spreadsheet. You would fill it out. You would put in what you wanted to do. You would accompany that with the order when you sent it into Ferrari. And you can actually do the headliner. And then it evolved from there. It turned to exterior options. And then Ferrari came out with an option package. And this goes all the way back to the early 2000s, because there was a brochure they had. It was a red brochure. Michael Schumacher was in it, and he drove for the team from 1996 through 2006. And they had different wheels for the Maranello. They had multi-piece wheels. They had different things that you can do on the inside, roll bars and different things not available in the US market, but in Europe they had these other options you can do. Carbon fiber sill plates. And then they started to incorporate it into what I call ClickBox. So when you were ordering the car, you can now click on it. You didn't have to go back to this other form, because a lot of people, either they didn't know how to do the form, or they maybe sometimes they didn't even know about it. I met Ferrari guys plenty of times. And back then, we didn't have the phones like we have today. It was a flip phone, and you're looking at a photo and they're looking at the phone. They're like, hey, what's going on with the back of that car, that leather shelf? You wouldn't believe it. They didn't know about it. So, and that's the way it was back then, 30 years ago.
So that's something Ferrari like disclose to the dealers, or just something you had to ask? Or
no, they would disclose it, but not everybody went to the training. The brand's evolved so much with the Ferrari Academy and the training since then. It was nothing like it is today. There's all kinds of online portals for testing at the Ferrari Academy, and guys are really up to speed. And candidly, the phones, you see everything. You look at a car and you're like, hey, that's a really cool color. When you ask about, we're inside the atelier room here, and when you look at how many different color reds are, if you tell somebody, oh, there's so many reds, there's over 150 shades of red, just red. So when you really get into it, there's a lot more to it than just everyone says, hey, I have a red Ferrari. Everyone assumes that it's Rosso Corsa, but when you look back at it and you'll say, okay, I have a red one. It's a really cool red. It was a lot of money. Okay, now you're saying, okay, is it a 3-layer? Is it a 4-layer? What are we looking at? And it's usually one of the common colors, but every once in a while you'll look at a photo and you'll say, it looks like this, but I'm not sure. That's why they have those stickers and those plates in all the cars. Yeah. So now you really know for sure what the car has as far as options. And that's something that started about 10 years ago.
But, really? That's it? Just 10 years? Okay.
Yeah, because people didn't know. You would say, okay, unless you had the original window sticker, and you couldn't fit all the options on the window sticker either. So it would just say special features, and it had a big lump sum of money, but it didn't break out what was in there. Then you'd have to go back to the dealer, ask for a build sheet, and they've updated the system so many times. Now a lot of those options sometimes aren't listed on the older cars. So it makes it really challenging. I could still look at a car and tell you, okay, look, this was a special feature, that was a special feature. But for the guys that don't know, they just don't know. And it happens. Case in point, the 550 Maranello that I purchased at Mecum.
Yeah, we'll see that in the next episode.
Yeah.
Well, can someone go back then to Ferrari? It's because obviously, as a car transacts, it gets sold, bought, sold, bought, sold. A lot of that information gets lost.
Hmm.
What's the person's ability? Would they go to the dealership that they would work with and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, can I get this from the factory in regards to
Yeah.
what this car was born with?"
Yeah, if the car is older car, especially, you can work with the Ferrari Classic K department, and then you can go ahead and you can request, with different things. Obviously, they have a fee for these things, but for sure, yeah, you can do it.
You probably have your own private office out there at Maranello, huh?
No,
You're
not
there
yet,
enough.
but I'm there enough. I'm there a lot, yes.
Because you probably go about once a month, right?
Roughing it out, yeah.
Why are you going to Italy so much in regards to, I guess, a customer or a restoration? What's your travels going over there so
Both.
much for?
Both. So, like I said, I started off at an early age going to the Concours events. So the family that I grew up with, they went to the Ferrari Club National. They had a really, really, really cool car. They had a 308 GTS, and most 308 GTSs at that time had two interiors, either beige or black if you had a red car.
Mm-hmm.
Their car had a chocolate brown interior. So it was super, super rare. Candidly, I've never seen another one like that. And when I looked it up, there was very, very, very few that were produced like that. So their car was unique, and that was my first exposure to unique color combinations. But I went to the National, and I would see all the cars, and I would see how they prepared them. And as time went on, and as you were saying, the cars' values are increasing big time.
Yeah.
Now people say, hey, you know what? I watched Magnum PI. I watched whatever show it was. I saw this car in that movie. I saw Steve McQueen had this car. And they say, look, I want to go ahead and I want to find one and restore it. I want it exactly like that. And that's what I do. I find the car for the customer. We bring it back to Europe, work with the factory, work with Classic K, restore the car, and then bring it to a Concours event, not only in Europe, even in the Middle East and Cavallino,
Yeah.
Middle East and Abu Dhabi. And now obviously we show the cars here, Villa d'Este, Cavallino in the US, Pebble Beach, all over the world.
With your knowledge, you must get asked a lot to represent someone's car at an event.
Yeah, I do. There's no doubt I do. And we have a pretty good track record, but you have to get an owner. I classify owners as, 4 different ways: able and willing, able and unwilling, and this is as far as their participation. Unable but willing, meaning I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue, but I'm willing to help out. Let's do this together, and I want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy, candidly, I love. And then you have the guy that's unable and unwilling. He's like, look, I just want to win the trophy, but, I don't really, I want to be behind the scenes, which is difficult because you're not winning unless you're there.
Yeah, the judges want to speak to the owner.
Exactly. So, but when you get the able and willing and even the unable but willing, he's like, the opposite, able and unwilling, I got to say. Yeah, but when you get the guy that's able and willing, able and willing is definitely the guy that he says, look, whatever it is, I want to learn it all. Take me to the factory. I want to just take it all in. He's awesome. Like, that's just like a great customer. And I've been fortunate to get a bunch of them. And I manage them. I manage their projects. I go back and forth. And I still have a few cars back over at the factory now, which is fun. I go back and forth. But it's been a fun journey, and it's always fun, obviously, when the car's up on the stage and they get the trophies and all that stuff. You saw some of Dana's cars that we did. So it's been a fun ride.
So you had a gap in there where you, I guess, would say jump ship to Porsche. How did that come about?
Actually, I went to Rolls-Royce and Bentley.
Oh, Rolls, okay.
And we did really well. We were a top dealer. We were Global Dealer of the Year 2 times. So we did really, really well.
Was this New Jersey?
Yeah, in New Jersey, yeah. And had a great team, great group of guys that I worked with. They were awesome, just great guys. And, we all worked together and we got it rocking and rolling. And, the end result was that we did really well. So that kind of opened up other opportunities. Your name kind of gets at the top of a list and, hey, what are these guys doing here? And, what's going on? And then, as you get opportunities thrown at you. And I kind of was always a warm weather guy. I always said, hey, Florida is where I would like to be. And I got approached for an opportunity to go to Porsche and be a partner in the store. So that was really awesome. And, it was a great ride, but for me, the truth is my love has always been Ferrari.
Hmm.
And I had the opportunity to come back here and do what I'm doing now. And it was great. It's been really a fun ride, you got to get to a point. I always share this with people. You got to get to what you really love, and I use the chef analogy all the time. A friend of mine's top chef, always worked in an Italian restaurant. The restaurant got sold, closed, whatever the deal was. He can flip burgers. That's not a problem for him, but he's not happy doing it, and he's
Yeah.
doing great. But he's in a steakhouse. But he said, look, it's a different menu. So he said, look, I got to get with where I want to be, and that's kind of where I was in my life. Ferrari's always been just an amazing brand, and for me, it's a childhood love. I started, like I said, 10 years old.
Yeah. Well,
So
you made that comment. Once you're in the Ferrari family, you're always in the Ferrari family.
yeah,
You never leave it. You're
no,
always part of it in some shape or
it's
form.
instilled in your DNA, and
Yeah.
Ferrari's just such a different brand. I mean, like everything. I don't care what it is. It has its ebbs and flows, ups and downs. But Ferrari, honestly, it's just the uniqueness, the design, just the mystique behind the brand. It really is something super special.
No, that's what people always ask me. What drew you to Ferrari? Why Ferrari? It's like it's just such a special brand.
Oh yeah,
The story, the history, the passion.
yeah,
From where it began with Enzo, to what it is now. I mean, there's so many different storylines to that, but it's just the passion that's there.
yeah.
It's nothing against Porsche. I love Porsche too,
Great
but
brand.
yeah, but it's very, it's very German.
Yes,
Everyone knows, and Ferrari is very Italian, so
yes.
it's just like what you want to, I guess, have your heart into, and
Yeah.
that's I've always been the same way too. It's just like it gets you, it catches you, it grabs you. You always have it.
Oh, you're in the vortex. They
Yes.
get you.
So let's get into Prancing Horse of Nashville. Store's been here 4 years.
Open 4 years. I got here 5 years ago, August 1st of 2021, to start the construction of this place.
Why Nashville?
There was a dealership that was here back in the 80s. It was called Thoroughbred Motors. It was downtown. And, back then, they would have a dealership that sold multiple European brands. Maybe they were selling whatever it may have been. I don't know. But Thoroughbred sold, I think, a couple of different brands. And if they were only doing a couple cars a year, and I say a couple, 10, 12, 15 cars a year, Ferrari said, look, and this was all happening in the 1990s. If you're not really performing and building the brand, we're just going to close those markets and build up the other ones. So in this case, Atlanta stayed. It was a bigger dealership. There was nothing in South Carolina, nothing in Tennessee, nothing in Kentucky, nothing in Arkansas and Alabama. There was a really big hole. So Atlanta had a really big footprint. But as you know, Nashville's been booming.
Yeah.
It's really, really building up over, especially the last 5 years. It's built up so much since I've been here, but it started before that. So they saw the growth potential here in the city, and it's still continuing to grow. So, and that a lot of that has to do with things that go on politics-wise, from that political part of the country. People that are living, especially, we see lots of California tags here. We see lots of tags, license plates coming in from New York, New Jersey. There's a lot of people moving to Tennessee, and Tennessee is kind of unique because it's in the Midwest, but it's you get the 4 seasons here.
Yeah.
You're even going to get a tiny bit of snow, not much, but a couple days a year. But it's for the guys that say, look, I don't want to have summer year round. A lot of people that I know that live up in the Northeast, I don't want to be in a bathing suit 365 days a year. It gets cold here. I mean, it's as cold here as it is in New York. So, you get that polar vortex, the same one that goes through where you're from, through Chicago and Ohio. It kind of comes down, dips down, and then moves back up. So, we get our cold days here. For sure, we get days that, you wake up in the morning, it's, 10 degrees, 15 degrees in the morning, and, the high might be 20, 25. So you're wearing your winter coat. So a lot of people call Nashville, you're like a mid-pack instead of a snowbird. You're halfway down, which is kind of cool.
Well, you look at it on a map too. I mean, you were nailing in regards to vicinity to other large markets, and that was a big hole.
Yeah,
because
sure.
if someone's here in Nashville, sending their car down to Atlanta or in South Carolina, over. I mean,
Yeah, it's
getting the car, that's a lot of work.
all the way to North Carolina was to the east. You can obviously go up to Illinois, or back then, you had to go down to Georgia. So it was a really big open space. At the time, Georgia had another satellite store. It was called Ferrari South. It was in Jackson, Mississippi, and the building's actually still there. I think it still has the signs up on the building. But yeah, Ed Weddick had a store down there, and then it was wide open. You had to go all the way to Houston. So it was a wide open space. It really was wide open. And, you just think about, I say something like Arkansas, and people look at me, like, Arkansas. I said, yeah, you heard of Walmart, right?
Yeah.
Walmart's there. I mean, you name it. There's some big, companies that are there. That's Northwest Arkansas, but there's plenty of wealth and lots of pockets of different areas in each state. And, yeah, for sure. We started to get customers from all over the place, whether it was Alabama, Huntsville, obviously, Rocketown, where all the stuff with SpaceX is going on. So that's not that far from here at all. You got everything that went on, a little bit further south in Birmingham, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Kentucky. You're in Kentucky in 40 minutes from here. So it's been great. When I walk through the shop, I look at all the different tags on the cars, and not only Tennessee, you see them from everywhere else. Whereas, when I was in, let's just say, Florida, every car pretty much had Florida tags on it. So
that's got to make you feel good, because you see all those out-of-state tags, because when someone's traveling to come to your store, they're coming here for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the store, but actually it's the service they're getting,
yeah,
the quality service they're receiving, just the attention, because it matters a lot.
Oh,
and they're willing to travel that extra mile, 100 mile, whatever it may be, to receive that.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about a brand like Ferrari. I mean, you want to have, I guess you expect that really special treatment in regards to that, because it's just such a fabulous car. It's like, hey, I want that whole experience.
Yeah.
And, we'll do a tour of the store here next, so you guys will see it all. But so were they awarded, I guess, how does that happen in regards to, I mean, someone just going to say, hey, I want to open up a Ferrari dealership. Let's, they tell us where, hey, we're going to choose Nashville. They got to go to Ferrari. Or does Ferrari have some kind of dictate, well, okay, you can put it here, I'm assuming there's a long negotiation process in regards to where it's at.
What they do is somebody will say, hey, look, I want to become a Ferrari dealer. And then Ferrari does their analysis with the dealer development team, and they'll say, we're going to put out an RFP, or a request for proposal. And they'll take a look at, who wants to submit to become a dealer in Nashville. The strong thing for us was we were already a dealer. We have the Mercedes-Benz dealership literally right down the street. And it's one of the top, really top performing stores. So we already had a footprint here in Nashville, which really helped. There's other people that went ahead and put in their proposals. Ferrari reviews everybody's proposal and takes a look and says, okay, here's the ownership group. Here's who they have. A key point is obviously who's the Ferrari guy that's in the store. So the key thing is, not like other brands, if you, not all brands, if you have a really good car guy, you can have a guy that has 35 years of experience as a Porsche general manager, but if he doesn't have Ferrari experience, they're not going to approve him as a general manager of their store. And things change quite a bit, because when I first started, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, it's changed so much, the brand, because there's so much to know. There's really a lot of knowledge, and that's where the Ferrari Academy comes in. So you got to get a trained guy that's in the brand, because everybody knows the car business. The car business is the car business, but it's candidly, it's a two-way street. A guy that's running a Toyota store would have a really hard time running this store, and vice versa. If I went into a Toyota store, doing that mass volume, it would be really, really hard for me to do it the other way. It would probably be easier for me to go back that way versus him come this way, because it's an older guy, and to learn the model lineup of 75 years is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Plus, it's coming up on 80 years. Next year is 80 years. So to learn that model lineup of all those cars and immediately say, hey, that's a 125, that's a 166, that's a 250 Buono, all the cars from
you gotta know them all.
Yeah, you have to know them all.
Not just the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a It's a 2025 Camry. There you go. Because that becomes about volume. It's not about the customer.
Exactly. So, and look, let's be honest. It's a whole different types of a completely different sales pitch. You're selling on emotion here. Nobody needs a Ferrari, right? It's a want.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, somebody needs, look, I have to have a car. I have to take my kids to school. I have to get to my job, whatever the case may be. So you have a need versus a want. We're obviously on a want here. So, people, they want this, and you're selling more on emotion. So it's a different type of level of communicating with that person.
Sidebar. What's Ferrari Academy? Real quick. Tell us about what the Ferrari Academy is.
So the Ferrari Academy is an academy that they have. It used to be just in person, but now it's digital. It really changed during COVID. So they have all online classes, and you take all the, they have a portal. You go in and you test you on the car, especially like the one on the Luce is unbelievable. Talks about different voltage, different electric.
Yeah, I can
What
imagine.
do you do? I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, really, really complex. Like I can't go through it right now. Like I passed the test, but if I went back right now, I'd probably fail it because it starts getting into what happens if this happens and your battery goes dead and you only have this type of jump box. I'm not an electrician. So for me, it's a little challenging. I'm like, wait a second, am I on AC or DC? It starts getting complex of what you have to do. So it's a great thing that they put out. And candidly, electrification's changed a lot of it because the traditional stuff was, this is how much horsepower per liter we're making.
Yeah.
This is how fast the gearbox shifts. This is the performance of the car. These are the new features. But once you started getting into that hybrid electric technology, it started to change.
So you obviously got involved very early in the process because you made the statement about needing to have a Ferrari guy on board submitting your RFP. So you got on board with that. Now, there also is a very specific individual in this ownership group that a lot of people know.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick Saban. So Nick Saban, Coach Saban's, he's one of the partners in the deal. So the main guy was Joe Agresti. Joe Agresti's from New Jersey. Great guy. A lot of fun. And Joe originally, we actually had a lot of mutual friends. So I was fortunate in that sense that some of his college buddies or guys that he went ahead and worked with early on in his career, he came from the public sector of accounting. Some of the guys that he worked with, I actually grew up with either them or their brothers or sisters or other siblings because I'm a little bit older than him. He's early mid 50s. I'm actually late 50s now. So we had mutual friends. And then the second person is Steve Cannon. Steve was the former CEO of Mercedes-Benz, military guy as well, West Point graduate. And he became the CEO of Mercedes-Benz USA. Last, obviously, Nick Saban, Coach Nick Saban. Everybody knows who he is in the college football world, was an NFL coach as well. And so it's a unique ownership group.
How much were you involved in the design process too? Because there's some very unique features at this dealership.
A little bit on the design group. Early on, I spoke to the president of the company now is Randy Powell. So when I first started chatting with them, it was in 2020 about this opportunity. And then we were talking especially about that room right there, the atelier room. We talked a little bit about the shop, a little bit about the showroom. It was mainly the building was kind of set. Some of the stuff they can shift around and make that room a little bit bigger. But I was a big advocate for putting in the car inside the atelier room because that's what you see at the factory. So it's really easy to look at something on a monitor, but when it's three-dimensional and it's right next to you and you can show them the carbon fiber and whatever it may be, it makes a big difference on what you're selling to the customer or how you're configuring the car. But it makes a big difference, obviously.
Oh yeah, when you can see, feel, touch. I mean, the visualization, it's a million times better to start trying to look at a screen. And we had this conversation about an Enzo in regards to going to look at it. If someone says, oh, it's available. Oh, just send some pictures. Like, no, you want to physically go see it because you want to touch it and feel it. And it really gives you that sense of this is exactly how it's going to look like, especially with the multitude of options you have and choices. I mean, it can really change up. And so that's a great feature to have.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much the only dealership in the United States that has this, or is there any other
I think there
ones?
might be one other delership that has it. I mean, I'm sure some of the newer stores that are coming online, it's probably in their design. But for us, it's been really, really good. I think it's a great feature. Obviously, I always call the car that's in there, it's got to be the one that's pretty loaded, whatever model that's in
Yeah.
there, because you want to show off the options that are on the car. And some of the stuff, obviously, it's unique to just one model, and then some of it is something that you'll see in other cars, whatever it may be, the Daytona style seats or what have you. So they'll say, okay, hey, a different model, but here you can see what the Daytona style seating looks like. So it's a really unique feature to have, having that car inside there, because without that, it's somewhat challenging to show
Yeah.
somebody exactly what it is. It's like you said, it's one dimensional on the screen, but when you see it, it makes a
Well,
big
it's great
difference.
too, especially when you're walking in with the client,
Yeah,
the customer, do it, and all of a sudden, bam,
yeah,
get the car there, everything like that. It's just, again, it's about the experience.
yeah. It's totally about it.
You, you are in a unique, I guess you say here, because with other, I guess to say VPs of a dealership, you're very active out in the market in regards to buying and selling, finding unique cars, because you like those special unique cars, special unique colors. And this dealership, I mean, when we came in yesterday and we walked around, I'd say shocked. I mean, but just in awe for the amount of vehicles you have here in regards to especially unique ones, like
Yeah.
very special cars. I mean, is that something that you feel is beneficial to the dealership? You being a lot more active, you being more, I would say, a face of the dealership, but just being out there and meeting people, talking, networking.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I've been doing it for a while, right? So, when you've been doing it for a while, most people know who you are, and it's kind of a natural thing as far as, you meet people, about different collections, you hear about different things. And to your point, when you walk around this dealership, I thought about it when you were here last night. We have two F50s, an F40, two GTOs, a 58 Tour de France, a 72 Daytona Spider, and then in the back we have SF90 XX Spider. We have three F12 TDFs here, 812 Comp, and we started going through the whole lineup what we had there last night, and it goes on and on. Speciales, Apertas, Pistas. I mean, we have everything here, and to me it seems normal, but for you, because you said, look, I go to a lot of dealerships all the time, and I've never seen this many cars. And how did it happen? It's just being in the game so long. Tom's been in the game a long time. Tom Roach is the GM, and between the two of us, we know a lot of people, and it makes it kind of easy. We kind of mix it up with the right guys.
Because you guys also do Class C certification here as well.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. So for us, we work closely with them. I'm back and forth with them. We're actually having an event here at the end of this month. We have another event we're going to do in November. So we have specific events focused on that client and on that part of the business, which everyone thinks of a Classic K car as a car that has chrome bumpers. Not true. Classic K car is a car that's 10 years plus older, right? So you're going to have a car that's they're Classic K in cars that are 430s now. 20 years old.
Yeah.
You're going to have cars that are they're getting into that mode. All the cars that were, limited series or iconic cars, they actually fall under the Classic K department. Speciale Apertas, TDFs, even 812 comps, they come with a different binder. So instead of having the red binder, people call the red book,
Yeah.
you'll have the yellow book. And we have those upstairs. You can actually see them up there. There's a gray book. There's a red one with a white stripe, which was the competition book. They used to have a white book as well, but that's been phased out. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, for tailor-made cars and all that different stuff. Yeah, there's definitely, for sure, a set process there. And that's what people you want to go ahead and you want to, you want to identify the unique features of those cars and what they have, but you have to work closely with that department. I saw the benefit of it, but I was around those cars, like I said, my whole life. So it was a natural transition for me to get into and work closely with that department. But, that's where, in my opinion, that's where the opportunities are.
Me and Eric were at lunch earlier, and we were discussing that and saying how that's such a unique, operating opportunity for a dealership to have that tangible offering, I guess you could say, because, I don't want to say one-stop shop, but I mean, hey, you can get your newer car, but you also can get your Classic K, you can get your older collectible car done. it's offering up that service and keeping it under one roof, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter what it is, right? You don't want your client, at least you shouldn't want him to go somewhere else, right? You don't want to say, hey, look, I do my new Ferrari stuff here, but I do my other Ferrari stuff over there. I mean, you want to keep them all underneath the same roof. I get it. Geographically, I have customers that they have new car business. They live in Florida. They live in New Jersey. They live somewhere else. But their classic stuff they do with me. And, I do all the events, not only the stuff that's in the Ferrari network. You have other events, whether it's Marbella or, St. Moritz or whatever it may be, whatever different events you're doing all over the place. You're doing the ice racing or different types of events. You have to do them. And then there's all the international shows, Retromobile, which is great. Retro's coming to New York this year. That's, roughly a little over 2 months away. And
say hi if you see us there, especially reach out, talk to Chris. Great person. But we'll be walking around one of the days there doing some recording stuff with Chris as well. So be sure to look out for that. Yeah. So, you mentioned the events you're doing. What, they're centered around the Classic K program. What do you guys have planned for that?
So left in Italy right now, we have an F40 LM, which is at Michelotto right now. It's a Cristiano Michelotto. That car just got finished up. So we're going to go back in less than a month. We're going to go over to Fiorano, the test track across from the Ferrari factory. We're going to do the shakedown on the track, and we'll document that. We'll put a bunch of GoPros inside the car.
That's giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I love
right?
the LMs.
Yeah, that's kind of
fabulous
cool.
car.
So we're going to do that, and then we have what else is left over there? We have a Michelotto 308 Group 4 car, rally car. So that's still over there.
Wow, that's
very cool.
Yeah.
So 308 GTB, Group 4 car. There's a couple other projects we're going to work on. We're going to get ready to do another F40 project over there. And there's a couple other cool things that we're kind of close on. So, so it's been fun. I love doing them. I love working on, it's a whole different process time-wise, and even just the timeline and the strategy on what you're going to do. Because if the car is a steel body car, it's one thing. If it's an alloy car, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
If it's more of a newer car, especially a carbon car or carbon Kevlar composite car, F40, F50s, different approach, different shop you may use. It's just a whole different deal. But it's been fun. It's really been a fun ride.
The events you mentioned, you guys are going to be having here end of the month, next weekend, and then in November. What are those events you guys are going to be doing?
So we do like a workshop type thing. We bring people in. It's like you get a gathering of people that are really interested in that, and people that are kind of focused on more of the classic cars. And then we have a representative come from Ferrari North America who works with Ferrari Classic K, and we introduce them to what that is, because there's a lot of people that are looking for that lifestyle component. Now, on the videos that are running behind us, Ferrari documents all that. So they have cavalcades, they have Ferrari Classic K cavalcades, they have specific events for each model. They had a GTO tour, they had the F40 tour, they had an F50. They did all these different events. So like when you're doing those events, they're really neat. And if you're part of that, people really like the lifestyle event. It's not just, like I said, you're selling on emotion. It's not just the car. There's a lot of different ways it goes. There's guys that are just strictly investors. I want to buy the car. Are you going to use it? Nope. Just going to put it away.
Yeah.
Just going to let it sit. Great. Then you have guys that say, listen, I don't want a car that has no miles because I want to drive it. I know that if I'm going to buy a car that has no miles, I'm going to pay all the money for the car due to its low odometer, but I'm just not going to use the car. So I would always suggest to that guy, if he's going to use the car, don't buy that car, because you can get one that has a couple thousand miles and enjoy the car. And it's not going to make a big difference if the car had, let's call it 5,000 kilometers, and now it has 6,500 kilometers, versus a guy that has a car that has 300 miles on it. And if it goes to 1,300 miles, it's a whole different car.
Yeah, I think Ferrari kind of led the way in regards to, one, the Classic K program, getting certification, but also events, and creating those special experiences for their clients. I mean, they do an incredible job, and it's great too is they do them all over the world. because they know their clients are from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they do a fabulous, fabulous job of that. And I think a lot of other manufacturers try to emulate that. I don't think they've gotten quite to that point, but I think Ferrari's just phenomenal in regards to what they do for their customers.
We had a conversation about this. I grew up, obviously, born in the late 60s, grew up in the 70s. And I used to see all the different types of cars that you would see. And when you go to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, or you go to see cars that are Bloomington Gold, and anybody that's in the American muscle car space, that's a whole different type of certification. And in my opinion, it's way above anything else I've ever seen. And when you get a car that's restored to those levels, those cars are like perfect cars. So the restoration business, it was an odd thing. People would see cars with Ferrari and they'd say, okay, well, the car was repainted. It was this, it was that. Well, look at all the cars, every car from the 50s and 60s. Any car that you see outside of even cars that are in the preservation class, and candidly, I don't know if they've been touched up because I've never seen paint on cars look like that back in the 1950s and 60s. But yeah, all those cars got restored. So I saw an opportunity that I said, eventually these cars are all going to get restored. There was no PPF. There was no film.
Yeah.
So when you see cars that they say, look, this car's all original. It has 1,500 kilometers and there's not one little stone chip on that car. There's not a mark on that car. I know what to look for, but there's a lot of people that are out in the marketplace that say, oh, this car's all original. And it's been challenging, because there's so many different things out there today. You have a bunch of big auction houses. You got Meekum, Bonhams, RM, Gooding, Broad Arrow. I mean, you got everybody that's out there. And then you take a look and you say, then you got what's online. Not only do you have all the Ferrari dealers, you have a lot of the independents. You got RM has their own independent. You got DuPont has their own independent online. You have guys that have their own Instagram pages that do a really good job at selling stuff. You got a bunch of guys in Florida. You got a bunch of guys out in California. So everybody's pushing cars into this space, and there's a lot of different distractions for people. So I said, look, I took a look and I said, well, if you have a Rolex on, this is me. If I'm going to go buy a Rolex, I'm going to buy it from a Rolex dealer. That's just me.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Whether it's on some website or whatever, some auction site or whatever it may be, I would prefer to buy it from a Rolex dealer. So I kind of focused in on that because it goes all back to what I said originally. This is about you're selling somebody that it's a want, not a need.
Yeah.
So if you can emotionally connect with that guy and build the value in yourself, and you got to get on that level playing field with the guy that you're talking to and say, hey, look, I have all this knowledge, and you really start to talk about that, then, you can have a customer. You can't get that out of a website or on a phone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people doing what you and I are doing now. There's a lot of podcasts out there. I see tons of podcasts. I see guys talking about, the market and what's going on. Well, the market in Europe versus the market here is a completely different market. And then, in other parts of the world, it's even more different. So it depends on a lot of different things. And, tariffs and taxes and all these different things make a difference of, what the car is going to bring. It's not like a watch where you put a watch on and you buy a Rolex in London. And you come back here, it's the same Rolex, tells the same time, it's the same watch. But there is a difference between a European car, the rest of the world, and a US car.
Yeah.
There's different things on the cars that make them look different. Candidly, I think the ones in Europe are the better looking cars. They don't have all those extra reflector lights, and especially on the older cars, the bumpers on the US bumpers, they weren't as pretty. Those cars were much more sleek, and they were like how the original design was. But the flip side to that is it's a totally different market. So, if you had a house in England somewhere and you took it apart stick by stick and you took that same house and you put it together, not even going to use Nashville, we'll use Hawaii.
Yep, there we go.
That house is worth a lot more money there. So it's just the market that we have here, and it's a very strong market. And there's a lot going on in the U.S. economy that's really promoting that. You got all those different things that are coming public. They're going to be, now they're saying in the trillions, whether it's SpaceX, you got Anthropic, you got ChatGPT. There's a lot of people that are going to be doing quite well. And the cars that they grew up, the poster cars that they had are a lot of the cars that we're talking about.
Yes, correct.
So that's where, you got to have your eye on the ball and you got to focus on that.
So where do you, okay, so you got 4 years and, okay, 5 years now, 10 years now, where do you see Prancing Horse getting to, or what's the goal? What do you have in mind where you want this dealership to be?
It just keeps growing. I say you walked around the dealership. It's a big, big store. It's 45,000 square feet. In Europe, that's about 4,000 plus meters. But
is this the largest Ferrari dealership in the United States?
Square footage wise, we're up there. I don't think we're the largest, but we're up there. We're pretty large. I mean, I definitely say we're in the top, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. We're definitely there. But you didn't see an open space.
No.
The place is packed solid with cars. And that's, what I always say to everybody. If you're going to build a Ferrari dealership for all the people out there that are looking to rebuild their stores, go big. Because if you really get into this storage business, and now they have these, storage places, and the guys build out these units as like man caves.
Yeah.
You're not going to build out man caves at a store, but, storage is a big thing. There's plenty of money. But if the guy lives downtown Nashville and he has 2 or 3 parking spots and he lives at this building, he's not going to leave his car in a parking garage, and he's not going to throw a cover over it, whatever it is. He wants it in a climate-controlled place. We look after the car, we exercise the car, we check it out, obviously, on a monthly basis, and we look after it. We charge them a fee, obviously, but it makes it easy. And then they ring us and they say, hey, listen, I'm coming into town, or I'm here, I want to take the car out. We get it out. If it needs a bath again, great. It usually doesn't. But comes in, we take a look over, pressure the tires, make sure it's good to go, and send them off his way. So it's a great business, but it's really packed the place up.
Well, I don't think people don't realize or don't think about all those little tangibles going along with having that car, because it's not, if you use it as a daily driver, God bless, but more than likely not, they're not. So having you sit there and having that thing ready to go, exercising it, being sure everything's working, because it is a living, breathing machine that needs to be operated and run to get the fluids going to everything like that. And you have that done, and then to your point, just call up, hey, I'm coming up, or hey, can you have it ready? Just jump in and go.
Yeah.
And that market's been booming in regards to, all these storage facilities and what they offer, and doing the man cave. But some people don't want to have to spend the money to buy the unit, to spend the money to outfit and everything like that, when they're like not ever going to be there, just to keep their cars in. But to each their own.
It's their getaway.
Yeah, it's to each their own. So, but this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and give us your story, because it's always, and I know there's a lot of, you chuckled at a few points, because I know there's like other stories in there that you popped in your head that,
Plenty.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get to those one time, maybe not, but those are just for private talk. But really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
Stay tuned, because we're going to do a tour of the dealership as well, because there's some unbelievable stuff here. So be sure you watch that episode as well. But I appreciate everyone listening. Be sure you hit that like and subscribe, guys. We appreciate it. Take care. God bless.